Hello friends, welcome back. In this video, we'll be discussing risk management framework, which is Nist 837 and cybersecurity framework. A little bit of recap because it's important for us to know the different Nist documentation, its relationship in the context of risk management, and the way we should see the hierarchy of the documentation. This is very important for us to always carry this whole context of different NIST documentation. Most of the topics I have already covered in my last 2 to 3 videos. You can refer it, but I will just put a quick recap here so that the story in this video is well understood with in reference to the last video, right? So let's quickly go into the drawing desk. And what we see here is risk management framework, NIST RMF, a special publication 837, which is highlighted here, this part. Sorry. And then cybersecurity framework. Generally, NIST 837 is meant for federal organization, government organization, but it can be adopted by anyone, basically. And CSF is generally meant for commercial entities. It's a voluntary adoption. If anyone wants to adopt for cybersecurity enhancement, they can use it. Now, in terms of its development over history, if you look into my video where I discussed about the computer crime chronology, you must be familiar with this diagram. So if you see here, you will realize that in 2002, under George Bush administration, this Federal Information Security Management Act, which is FISMA, it was enacted in 2002, and NIST started preparing the necessary documentation to centralize or kind of put a uniform structure behind all the cybersecurity need of country. And then in 2010, this risk management framework was actually prepared. RMF, we call it very famous acronym RMF SP 837, which is NIST, risk management framework basically. Now, how this framework relates to overall risk management. So if you remember, the thing which I explained is that NIST 839, which is the master risk management document for all information system. Let me quickly zoom out to my drawing desk and share with you a bit of recap. So if you see here 839, which is this guy, 839 is managing information system or information security risk for an organization, and it gives the organization mission and information system view, whereas this information system view is addressed in 837, which is this one. Revision 2 is the current document, right? This is what we are going to discuss today. 839 is the master information security risk management document, you can say. 837 is about the information system view, which is a subset of 839, which is addressed by 837. Right? Now, coming back to this drawing here, you will see here one more important thing is that in 2010, when SP 837 was introduced, now this Federal Information Security Management Act, which was introduced in 2002, was kind of revamped into 2014, and the word management was termed as modernization. So there was a bit of decentralization which happened. I have already explained the history of decentralization in another video. You can refer it. I will put a link here. Now, as part of this FISMA in 2014, with M for modernization, not M for management, there were various documents which came in picture. One of the document was NIST 853. Now, NIST 853, the current version is version 5, which is basically security and privacy control for information system and organization. And this is not only for the federal use, but for non-federal use as well, right? So that's NIST 853. Now, NIST 171 was for non-federal at that time, but now 853 can also be used for non-federal organization, right? Now, as part of this exercise, 837 was also kind of a new version came out, which is version 1.1, I think. I'm not sure, I need to check it, but the new version is different than the original one, which is version 1.0, which was in 2010. You can check on current NIST website, or let me just quickly do it for you. So if you go here, so the current framework for CSF is version 1.1, and for 837 is revision 2, sorry. So 837 is revision 2 basically, which was there in my drawing board here, revision 2. So 837, which is risk management framework, is 800 it's revision 2 as of now. And then the other one is CSF is version 1.1. Sorry if I messed it up. Now, this is called Cybersecurity Enhancement Act, basically is commonly termed as CEA. Now, with CEA, we discussed two things. One is NIST 837 revision 2, which is my risk management framework, and another is CSF, which is basically a cybersecurity framework that's used for commercial organization. So let's go to the drawing task again and see here what are the steps for risk management framework. So when we talk of risk management framework, it is basically 7 steps. Well, first one is the initiation process, then categorization, then we select, controls, we implement, assess, authorize, and monitor. So we'll go one by one and we'll try to understand what are these steps and what it means. So first one is the preparation phase of 837. So what we do in this phase, we prepare to execute the risk management framework from an organization and system level perspective, right? And we establish a context and priorities for managing security and privacy risk. Basically, if you look into NIST 839, it talks about organization view, business view, and information system view. So this one talks about organization and business view. Like we said, what is the business for which we are gonna discuss risk management framework? What is the context of it? What is the inherent risk? How much is the risk appetite? So all those kind of things will be documented as part of the preparation phase of risk management framework, right? So that will set the stage. So again, if I will show you my previous messy drawing here, so this is more like framing the risk. If you see here this part, so in framing, when we frame the risk for an organization, it's more like we are preparing for the risk management framework implementation, right? So it talks about what are the risk assumptions, what are the constraints for an organization, which talks about how much is my risk appetite and risk capacity. And then we talk of risk, how much risk we can tolerate. And based on that, what are the priorities and what are the trade-offs you have to make. This is all a very subjective, a very qualitative, high-level analysis, which senior people who are running the business and who are experienced enough to give some data pointer based on their experience, those kind of thing will come here in framing the risk, which is basically will be similar to the first step of risk management framework, which is preparation phase or initiation phase, you can say, right? So let me go back again here, right? So once we prepare, once we are ready with all our assumption, constraint, capacity, appetite, tolerance, those kind of thing, And these terms I've already explained in my previous video, so feel free to go back and check if you have any doubt in these terms, or you can comment in this video as well if there is further explanation required. Now once we are ready with all these soft pointers, then we have to categorize the system, categorize the information which we process, which we store, which we transmit, and we basically analyze everything from the point of view of how much will be the impact if we lose it, right? So what we are doing here, we are categorizing the system and the information processed, stored and transmitted by the system based on analysis of the impact of loss, right? In a very simple term, it's basically putting an asset value for every asset we have. That's categorization, like C1 category, C2 category, C3 category, or confidential, public disclosure, non-confidential, classified. Those kind of thing will come here. Now once we are ready with, we have already prepared ourselves for risk management framework implementation, we have categorized the system. Then what we do, we select an initial set of controls, right? That's the third stage, selection. The selection of an initial set of controls for the system for which we are doing the risk management framework, and tailor the controls as needed to reduce risk to an acceptable level based on an assessment of the risk, right? So basically we categorize and then we are selecting some controls to suit the security need which we have for the system. That's the selection. So what we are selecting here, we are selecting controls. So let me initiation, sorry, when we talk of initiation, let me pick some new color here. Yeah, so in initiation what we talk about risk capacity, risk appetite, risk tolerance, constraint, and other things, right? When we say categorize, what we are categorizing here, we are categorizing basically assets. It could be tangible, intangible asset, it could be hardware, software, database, reputation, whatever you think of. Then we select controls, initial set of controls, right? Once we select initial set of controls, then what we do, we implement the controls and describe how the controls are employed within the system and its environment of operation. That's what we do. Basically, whatever control we select, we deploy. Once we deploy, what is the next natural course of action? It's the assessment. So what we do an assessment of the implemented control, that whether they are effective or not. So assess the control, determine if the controls are implemented correctly. First thing, operating as intended. First, it is correctly implemented. Second, it is operating whatever objective it was supposed to achieve, it is it's actually met or not, and producing the desired outcome with respect to satisfying the security and privacy requirement, right? So assessment is basically to check. And then what we do, we selected the controls, implemented and assessed, right? Then we are satisfied with whatever we have, then we authorize, we give an approval that the controls which we have selected is good to go, and we keep on monitoring it over the time. And if there is a security attack or something, then we change the countermeasure, we change the environment, we change the baseline. So whatever we do, then we have to repeat the whole cycle again. So that's basically is what Nist 837 is, right? Now what are the important points to note here is that the initiation phase is important. This is the first phase which actually gives all the vision to the rest of the phase, right? And yeah, and this is basically the part of Nist 839. You will say that 837 acts as a subset of 839. Now what we'll do, we'll go to CSF and I will explain what are the key points in CSF you should remember for CISSP exam. Just stay tuned. So for CSF, there is this different note which I actually prepared before I go in my visual drawing. So basically, CSF, if you look into CSF documentation, which is available as of now, it talks about CSF in terms of three parts. So CSF is basically having three parts in it. The first one is called framework core. Second part is the framework implementation tiers, and third is framework profile. So framework core basically talks about what are the different function categories of the cybersecurity risk we are going to consider for an organization. Implementation tiers gives the, like, it's kind of it's not the maturity model as such, but it's kind of showing at what tier the organization is in terms of its cybersecurity readiness. Like tier 1 is the lowest and tier 4 is the highest, right? But an organization could be well accepted at tier 1 or tier 2. It's not necessary for every organization to reach to tier 4, right? So this is all dependent on the specific company. Some company may be 100% meeting the security baseline in tier 2. They might not consider going to tier 3 because they don't have the risk appetite for tier 3. Some may be at tier 4 and they will be lacking something. They have to go for additional controls, right? So it's just a reflection of what kind of security controls we have in terms of cyber security risk management. Now, framework profile deals about the information flow. So from CISSP exams perspective, you have to know only the first tier, which is framework core. If you go in details, that's well and good, but if it's from the point of view of CISSP exams and questions being asked, if you know the framework, CSF core is more than enough. Basically, there are 5 steps in cybersecurity framework core, which is identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover. We will quickly go into it. There is no more information which you should know, about the whole 3 parts. There are a few things which is there in this screenshot. If you want to take a capture or a screenshot, you can take it, and then you can have this for your information. But this information is derived from the Nist documentation, which is publicly available. You can download from there as well. Now going back to the diagram. So what we do in CSF, basically, first we identify the components of the cybersecurity need which we are going to have. So what it means, basically, if you look into Nist documentation, identify is defined as to develop an organizational understanding to manage cybersecurity risk to system, people, asset, data, and capability. So it talks about like these 5 things: systems, people, asset, data, and capabilities, right? So what we are identifying here, it's highly unlikely that this is going to be asked in exam, that what are the 5 different identification we do insist in CSF. But if it's better: system, then people, asset, 1 2 3, and data and capabilities. Data and capabilities, right? So these are the things which we identify. Now what is the next step? Once we identify our critical system, critical people, critical asset, data, and capabilities, right, then we develop and implement appropriate safeguard to ensure delivery of critical services, right? So then we can think of what protection we have to put for everything, right? So one of the very critical thing nowadays is to identify internet edge services. So what are the services which is facing public internet? That's one of the type of asset identification we do in CSF. Then we do capability identification as well. Like, what are the business mission critical application, and what are the capabilities we need for it? So we need 10 terabyte of database. That's one of the capability we should have in our organization. Or we know we need 100 gig of cloud storage in Christmas time. So those kind of thing has to be documented. That's what is identification. And then protection is what safeguard we have to put based on the identified capabilities, basically. Right. So we develop and implement appropriate safeguard in protect to ensure delivery of critical services. Now, what is detection here? Detection is, as it sounds, it's more similar to the detection phase in the incident management process. So detection is to develop and implement appropriate activities to identify the occurrence of a cybersecurity event. So we should have a mechanism or capability which may be a technology solution, or it may be a process run by a team that should detect any cybersecurity incident. One of the example I can think of based on my experience is if you are going to have a DDoS protection mechanism in your company. So DDoS protection mechanism should include a DDoS detection mechanism and DDoS protection mechanism. So detection is basically you are getting alarm by any potential DDoS attack. So that's a detection step. If you don't have a detection step, then you rely on the event or the attack to go into the breach state, and once it is breached, then you come to know, right? So there is a time frame between attack and breach. For any company, if the time frame between attack and breach is minimized, then you get maximum benefit out of the framework or the solution you're putting it, right? So if detection, the time to detect an incident is more than the attack, it takes attacker to breach the system, it's of no use, right? So because a breach is basically you have already been compromised, right? So yeah, that's the point. So develop and implement appropriate activities to identify the occurrence of a cybersecurity event is detection. Now what you do in the next step, if you detect an incident, you basically go to respond it, right? So what is respond? Respond is to develop and implement appropriate activities to take action regarding a detected cybersecurity event. So again, going back to the DDoS example, so if you have a DDoS detection mechanism, then you should have a DDoS mitigation mechanism, right? So DDoS mitigation mechanism is basically responding to whatever alert or whatever alarms which we have received as part of the detection phase. Then there is a last step, which is recovery. What is recovery? Is to develop and implement appropriate activities to maintain plans for resilience and to restore any capability or services that were impaired due to cybersecurity incident, right? So responding is basically in terms of incident management, restoration of the services. But in course of restoration of the services, you may have lost some of the original capabilities, or you may have lost some of the come in a situation that you deploy something as an ad hoc basis. Then you have to keep the system or bring the system to the same security baseline as it was before the incidents. So that's basically recovering, right? It's more like, you were ill, like you got COVID, virus. Now you are sick, you can't go out, you are in lockdown, and then you got now the then you do the test again after some 20 days or a month, and you find that okay, now you don't have the virus, but still you are healthy now in terms of like you don't have virus, but you have not still fully recovered because you don't have that full potential, you don't feel the same energy, so you still need some time to recover, to go for a run or to do some other stuff in life, right? So that's the recovery part. I think when I will be explaining business continuity planning, I will have a specific video where I will discuss various terms like mean time to resolution, MTD, MTR. Then I will discuss more on recovery part, right? So yeah, that's the CSF in nutshell. I hope you like this video, and before I end the video, I will just give you a quick run again. That risk management is 839. Risk management have got 3 tier. business organization view and process view, and then information system view. Information system view is basically addressed by risk management framework, which is 837. And then you have got risk assessment, which is Nist 830. So all the documents, taxonomy, you should keep in mind. I hope this has been informative, and I would like to thank you for watching the video. If you really like the content of the video, put a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you wanna prepare a CISSP in a more informative way, I will say. Yeah, and let's hope to see you again in my next video. Thanks for watching.